I'm this gorgeous, high-maintenance drama queen who's been treating my boyfriend like a personal servant until I overheard him on a phone call. I've been reborn. This time I'm never serving her like a dog again. In my past life, I worked 3 jobs just to support her and fulfill all her ridiculous demands. I literally worked myself to death, only to find out she was just pretend to be poor to get close to me, all to get revenge for her childhood friend. Now that I'm living again, I'm going to make her pay for deceiving me. Terrified of his revenge, I immediately suggested we break up. The man who'd been demanding we sleep in separate rooms suddenly froze. Break up? Are you trying to kill me? After hearing Jake's conversation with his buddy, I was totally confused. I admit my motives for getting close to him weren't pure, but it definitely wasn't to get revenge for some childhood friend. I mean, I've been mean and heartless since I was little. Where would I even get a childhood friend?
I have plenty of enemies, though.
Could he possibly have another girlfriend? From the living room, Jake's voice continued. Gotta go cook now, then wake her highness up. Dude, you're sick. This isn't calling hard to get. You're just a simp who sees simps everywhere. I'm the main character now. Say that crap again, and we're done being friends. He hung up and angrily threw the silk pajamas he just hand-washed back into the bucket. Still not satisfied? He kicked it. Those pajamas. He'd carried cement at a construction site for a month, wore his shoulders raw just to buy them for me. When I received them, I wasn't touched at all. I just tossed them on the couch. It's just pajamas. You made me wait a whole month, even if I liked them. The excitement's gone now. I honestly don't know what I was thinking dating a poor guy like you.
So he really was talking about me? No.
No wonder he's been acting weird these past few days. I thought he was just throwing a tantrum, because I made him work as a male model at that club to make money. Turns out he's been reborn and discovered I'm a terrible woman. But honestly, this is amazing. This love school finally came to his senses.
Just as I was celebrating,
Jake walked into the room. Gone was his usual doting expression, replaced by that old, unapproachable look from before. His faded t-shirt somehow made him look even more attractive. No wonder he's dirt poor. But still his girls throwing themselves at him. Some even offering to be his sugar mama. Poor guys with good looks really are dangerous. I can't imagine how stressful it would be if we actually ended up together. Food's ready? Come eat when you're hungry. Seeing me just staring blankly, he sighed and walked over to the bed. Crouching down, his long fingers picked up my slip first, about to help me put them on.
His tone was dead.
Emma, this is the last time I'm helping you. Get out. I'm your boyfriend, not your hired help. I don't owe you personal service. After saying that, he paused and looked up to gauge my reaction. In the past, I would have exploded. Jake, what gives you the right to talk to me like that? A guy like you should be grateful to have a girlfriend like me. If you don't want to serve me, plenty of other guys do. If I wasn't feeling sorry for you, I would have dumped you ages ago for someone better.
But now,
I just calmly pulled my foot back and put on my socks and shoes myself. Okay, got it. Jake was stunned. He clearly didn't expect me to accept it so easily. After all, having him help me get up was one of my rules for him. He pressed his lips together and continued, also, I quit all my jobs. Inside gigs. You have hands and feet. If you want something, you should get it yourself instead of relying on a man. I looked up sharply. You quit? Are you serious? Seeing my strong reaction to him quitting, he stood up, satisfied, looking down at me.
Done.
Pretend to be calm, Emma. If I'm not mistaken, this is just another one of your little games.
Right?
Good thing I finally figured it out. My body is my own. If I work myself to death, you won't care. You'll just run into someone else's arms. Anyway, I'm completely awake now. From now on, I'm going back to my original life path. He looked exactly like a reborn male lead from those novels, waiting for me to regret everything. I forced a gentle smile.
Good for you.
You finally came to your senses. Working 3 jobs a day. Even machines can't handle that, let alone people. Finally, after a whole year, I'm about to complete my mission. See, Jake isn't actually some poor guy. He's the heir to the famous Johnson Group. He ran away to be independent, 'cause he was rebelling against his family's arranged marriage. And I'm not some rich girl either. I just happen to be a good actress. And because I'm naturally mean and heartless, Jake's mother hired me for $50 million to date her son. The goal was to make him suffer enough in love that he'd return to his wealthy family and accept the arranged marriage. I thought the job would be easy. A spoiled rich boy like him would be crying and saying, there are too many bad women out there. The arranged marriage is more reliable. Within a month, who knew he could endure more hardship than I imagined? No matter how unreasonable my demands, he'd agree without any complaints. After a whole year, I was almost even crazy. Even his friend, who'd been scammed out of millions by women, couldn't stand watching anymore. He begged Jake to break up with me. Please, I'm begging you. Dump her. I can't allow anyone in this world to be more whipped than me. Jake, I have no obligation to break up. We're true love. His friend tried everything. True love, my butt. Someone who truly loves you wouldn't make you worry. Jobs, living worse than a dog. The doctor said if you keep this out, you'll die from overwork. Isn't your life more important than this bullshit love? Jake was unmovable. You're trying so hard to make me break up. Don't tell me you're trying to steal my girl. Save it. You're too ugly. She'd never want you. His friend almost had a stroke. 3 jobs isn't enough. Let me find you 2 more. Hopefully that'll put you in the ground faster. You lovesick idiot. Thank God he got reborn. Otherwise, I might never see that 50 million. Though I'm curious why he thinks I approached him. To get revenge for some childhood friend? Probably something his mother made up to make him give up on me. She doesn't care if I live or die. Doesn't matter now. Once I get the money, I'll disappear immediately. Even if he wants revenge, he won't be able to find me. Thinking about the 50 million. I'm about to get my appetite returned. Instinct. We reached for Jake's arm, smiling as I pulled him toward the living room. Come on, let's eat. I'm suddenly starving. I could eat 3 bowls of rice. Jake frowned slightly and avoided my touch.
Right.
I almost forgot. He hates me now. So, he definitely doesn't want physical contact. I wisely pulled my hand back and kept my distance, but Jake frowned even deeper. I was speechless. I've been so busy insulting him before. I never realized he could be this difficult to please. Jake's cooking is amazing. Since dating him, I've gained 20 pounds. So I constantly complained his food was tasteless. Sweet and sour pork, I'd complain it wasn't spicy enough. Spicy boiled beef, I'd complain it wasn't sweet enough. No matter what he cooked, I'd find something to criticize and make him cook it again. Jake held his bowl, looking thoughtful. I was eating with gusto when I looked up. Why aren't you eating? Don't you hate these dishes? That's when I realized he deliberately cooked food I didn't like, trying to make me throw a tantrum and demand he cook something else. Then he'd refuse and humiliate me. But instead, I was devouring everything. Jake's face was darker than the bottom of a pan. Hey, taste change. Do people change too? Fine yesterday. Suddenly different today. I laughed dryly. Maybe I just got smarter. Jake's expression got even worse. He slammed down his chopsticks with a loud clang, stood up abruptly, and knocked over his chair. I'm done eating. I'm meeting someone and won't be home tonight.
Don't call me. I old answer anyway.
So annoying without waiting for my response. He grabbed his jacket, threw it over his shoulder, and left without looking back. I even bit my tongue accidentally, and he didn't turn around. That's when it hit me. The reborn Jake really was different. Right after Jake left, I remembered the kitchen trash needed to be taken out. It would attract bugs if left too long. So I grabbed the trash bag and chased after him, wanting him to take it down on his way out. I just reached the stairwell when I heard a broken voice. Why doesn't she care at all that my personality has changed so much? Why isn't she chasing after me to yell at me and hit me? I had to slap my free hand over my mouth to stop the hysterical bark of laughter from escaping. My shoulders shook. Are you kidding me? This wasn't a reborn, cold-hearted CEO who had seen through the Matrix. This was a sleep-deprived, overgrown golden retriever trying to play the lone wolf and having an absolute existential crisis because his owner wasn't playing fetch. I peeked through the crack in the heavy fire door. Jake was leaning against the concrete wall, looking utterly defeated. He ran a hand through his perfectly messy hair, muttering to himself. Did I push too hard? No, Jake, stay strong. You died for her in your last life. She's a demon, but she ate the spicy beef without complaining. Why did she eat the beef? I quietly backed away, tiptoed back to the apartment, and dropped the trash bag by the door. Okay, let's assess the situation. Jake's rebirth was clearly just a fever, dream-induced by severe exhaustion, working 3 manual labor jobs a day on a diet of instant ramen, and my emotional abuse had finally cracked his brain. He hallucinated a past life where I killed him, mixed it up with some soap opera plot about a childhood friend, and woke up thinking he was the male lead in a revenge novel. Honestly, good for him. The delusion was doing exactly what my tantrums couldn't. It was pushing him away. I walked over to the velvet sofa, kicked off my slippers, and pulled out my
phone.
I dialed a number I hadn't called in 11 months. Speak, a sharp, elegant voice answered. Eleanor Johnson, Jake's mother, billionaire matriarch, and my current employer. Mrs. Johnson, I purred, inspecting my manicure. I believe it's time to talk about the final installment of my payment. The prodigal son is packing his bags. There was a pause on the line. I could hear the clinking of fine china.
He
Broke up with you? Better. He's undergoing a profound psychological awakening. He quit his jobs, refuses to serve me, and stormed out. He'll be crawling back to your mansion within the week. I want my 50 million. Not so fast, Emma, Eleanor said, her tone cold. My son is notoriously stubborn. If he thinks this is just a lover's spat, he'll linger. I need him completely, irrevocably shattered. I need him to know love is a transaction.
You
We'll end it
publicly.
irreversibly. I rolled my eyes. Rich people and their theatrics.
Fine.
How do you want it?
Done.
The Johnson Group's annual charity gala is this Friday. I've made sure he'll receive an invitation. He'll think it's his chance to confront his family, or perhaps show you off to rebel against me. You will attend. You will take the microphone and you will humiliate him. Once that is done, the funds will be wired to an offshore account of your choosing. Make it 55 million, I said, for emotional damages. He bought me cheap pajamas. Eleanor chuckled, a dry, terrifying sound. Done. The next 3 days were a masterclass in psychological warfare, except I wasn't the one fighting. Jake was fighting himself, and he was losing. He returned home the morning after his stairwell breakdown, trying to look stoic
And unbothered.
He brought iced coffee. He set it on the counter, didn't offer me any, and sat on the couch with a book. I just ordered delivery, paid extra for priority shipping, and ate my truffle pasta while watching reality TV. I didn't buy you coffee, he announced suddenly, staring intensely at his book. It was upside down. I noticed, I said without looking away from the screen. Do you mind moving your leg? You're blocking the TV. He visibly twitched. In my past, previously, you would have thrown my coffee out the window for this. I'm practicing mindfulness. I lied smoothly. My therapist says I need to let go of toxic attachments. Toxic, he choked out. I did everything for you, and I appreciate that, buddy, I said, patting his knee like he was a golden retriever. But we're growing, evolving. Jake looked like he was going to vomit. By Thursday, he was desperate. He brought home a girl. She was pretty, blonde, and wearing Chanel. I recognized her immediately, Chloe Sinclair, the heiress Eleanor wanted Jake to marry. Jake had clearly called her, thinking bringing his arranged fiancée to our tiny apartment would trigger my ultimate villain arc. Emma, Jake said, his voice dripping with forced ice. This is Chloe. She's a very close friend from my real life. We're going out for dinner. He looked at me, waiting for the explosion, waiting for the high-maintenance drama queen to throw a plate. Instead, I beamed. I hopped off the couch and grabbed Chloe's hands. Oh my God. Finally. Hi, I'm Emma. He has told me absolutely nothing about you, which is typical Jake. Your bag is stunning. Is that the new season? Chloe, who had looked extremely uncomfortable, suddenly blinked.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Sit. I ushered her to the sofa. Jake, be a dear and grab Chloe some sparkling water. Not the cheap one, the one in the green glass bottle. Jake stood there, completely paralyzed. What are you doing? I'm being a good host. I scolded him gently. I turned back to Chloe. Listen, between us girls, take him off my hands. He's been incredibly moody lately.
He
keeps muttering about rebirths and childhood enemies. I think the construction dust got to his brain. Chloe suppressed a giggle. Jake looked like his soul was leaving his body. We're leaving, Jake barked, grabbing Chloe's arm. As he dragged her out the door, he shot me a glare of pure, unfiltered agony. I just blew him a kiss. 55 million, I reminded myself.
hold the line.
Friday night, the Johnson Group charity gala. Eleanor had sent a glam squad to the apartment while Jake was out. I stepped into the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, looking like a weapon of mass destruction. I wore a backless, emerald green silk gown that clung to every curve, diamonds dripping from my ears, and a red lip sharp enough to cut glass. I spotted Jake immediately. He was wearing a rented tuxedo that didn't quite fit, his broad shoulders looking entirely out of place among the billionaires, yet somehow more handsome than all of them combined. He was arguing with his friend, Mark, the guy who hated me. Dude, why are you here? Mark was saying, waving a glass of champagne. This is your family's turf. If your mom sees you, I have to prove a point, Jake said, his jaw clenched. She's going to be here.
Emma.
Bro, you're Delulu. That gold digger isn't going to show up to a billionaire.
Gala.
She wouldn't know which fork to use. Excuse me, I said, stepping up behind them. The salad fork is the smaller one. On the outside, Mark. Though considering you still wear Axe body spray, I wouldn't expect you to know that.
Mark choked on a champagne.
Jake turned around, and the breath actually left his lungs. His eyes swept over me, a complex mix of desire, confusion, and deep-seated past-life trauma. Emma, he breathed. How did you get in here? I was invited, I smiled. Before he could ask by who, the microphone on the main stage whined with feedback. Eleanor Johnson stood at the podium, looking out over the sea of
Wealth.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eleanor's voice echoed. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is about family. And speaking of family, my son, Jake, has finally graced us with his presence after a year of rebellious charity work. The room chuckled. Jake stiffened. However, Eleanor continued, her eyes locking directly onto me. It seems he brought his little distraction with him. Emma, wasn't it? Why don't you come up here and tell everyone exactly what my son means to you? The room went dead silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to me. Jake grabbed my wrist, his grip tight. Emma, don't. She's trying to humiliate you. We're leaving. Now. For a second, looking into his panicked, protective eyes, my chest tightened.
He still wanted to protect me.
Even thinking I was a demon who killed him in a past life, his first instinct was to shield me from his mother's cruelty. Damn it. I really was going to miss his cooking. I gently pried his fingers off my wrist. It's okay, Jake. I have something to say, anyway. I walked through the parted crowd, my heels clicking on the marble floor. I climbed the stairs to the stage. Eleanor stepped aside, a triumphant smirk on her face. I tapped the microphone. Hi everyone. I'm Emma, Jake's girlfriend. I looked down at Jake.
He was
staring at me like I was his only lifeline. Jake is an amazing guy, I said smoothly.
He works 3 jobs.
He does the laundry. He cooks a mean spicy beef. And lately, he's been under the delusion that he's a time-traveling protagonist who needs to punish me for a past life. Betrayal. A few confused laughs rippled through the crowd. Jake turned red. But the truth is much simpler. I continued, my voice losing its warmth. I didn't date Jake because I love him. I didn't date him for revenge. I dated him because a year ago, the lovely woman standing behind me offered me $50 million to make his life a living hell. The collective gasp in the ballroom could have sucked the oxygen out of the building. I saw Mark drop his champagne glass. It shattered on the floor. I kept my eyes on Jake. His face had gone completely slack. The color drained from his cheeks. I was hired to be a high-maintenance nightmare, so he would give up his independence and come running back to his mommy, I said, shrugging. And, honestly, it was the hardest money I've ever earned. The guy is a saint. You can't break him. But as of this week, he finally broke himself. So, my contract is up. I turned to Eleanor, who looked furious that I had exposed her side of the plot. So bluntly. Wire the money, Mrs. Johnson. 55, as we agreed. And, honestly, keep your son away from construction sites. The cement dust makes him hallucinate. I walked down the stairs. The crowd parted for me like I was carrying the
plague.
Jake stood frozen in my path. His eyes were wide, shining with a devastating realization. There was no past life. There was no childhood friend. There was just a girl who was paid to torture him. Emma, he whispered, his voice cracking. Tell me you're lying.
Tell me this is
just another one of your tests. I stopped in front of him. I reached up, adjusted his cheap bow tie, and patted
his chest.
I told you from the very beginning, Jake, I said softly, looking right into his broken eyes. I'm a terrible person. You just didn't want to listen. I walked out of the Plaza Hotel, hailed a cab, and didn't look back. By 9 a.m. the next morning, my bank account was $55 million. Heavier. 2 years later. Paris was nice, but the croissants lacked the specific, slightly burnt crunch of the garlic bread Jake used to make when he was too tired to watch the oven. I was sitting on the terrace of my penthouse, overlooking the Seine, swirling a glass of very expensive wine, feeling entirely, fundamentally bored. Money was great. It was everything I ever wanted. I had bought a villa, started a boutique PR firm, and dated a French model who looked like a Greek god but had the personality of a wet napkin. I dumped him because he wouldn't wash my silk pajamas by hand. I had become a monster of my own creation. I checked my phone. My assistant had sent over the briefing for my firm's new corporate overlord. A massive American conglomerate had just acquired the European luxury brand I did PR for. I opened the PDF file. The name at the top of the executive board made me choke. On my wine, Jacob Johnson, CEO, Johnson Group. Underneath was a photo. The faded t-shirts were gone. He was in a bespoke Tom Ford suit, his hair styled flawlessly, his jawline sharp enough to cut taxes. He wasn't the golden retriever anymore. He looked like a wolf. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I answered it cautiously. Hello. Did you really think Paris was far enough, Emma? The voice was deeper, colder, and sent an immediate, embarrassing shiver down my spine. Jake, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Or should I say, Mr. CEO? Congratulations on the promotion. I see the arranged marriage treated you well. Chloe and I are strictly business partners, he said smoothly. And I'm calling a meeting. My office. 1 hour. Your office is in New York, Jake. I'm in Paris. Look out your window. I frowned, stood up, and walked to the edge of my terrace. Parked down on the cobblestone street below was a sleek black Maybach. A man was leaning against the hood, holding a phone to his ear. He looked up. Our eyes met. I bought the European division just to fire you, he said through the phone. I couldn't help it. A massive grin broke out on my face. You spent $2 billion to fire me? I'm flattered. Get down here, Emma. 10 minutes later, I walked out of my building wearing a pristine white suit and killer heels. I approached the Maybach. Jake hung up his phone and just stared at me. 2 years had changed him. The naive, desperate love was gone from his eyes, replaced by a calculating, intense focus. So, I said, leaning against the car door, are you going to fire me or are you going to demand I pay you back for the cheap pajamas? Get in, he commanded. He drove us to a private estate just outside the city. Neither of us spoke. The tension in the car was so thick you could carve it with a steak knife. When we got inside the massive, empty house, he finally turned to me. Why? He asked, his voice losing a fraction of its icy veneer. I spent 2 years replaying everything. The 50 million. The gala. You ruined me. I was doing my job, I said, tossing my purse on a chair. I grew up with nothing, Jake. You were a billionaire playing poverty tourism. Your mother offered me a way out of the gutter. I took it. He stepped closer, towering over me. And the phone call? The revenge for the childhood friend. I burst out laughing. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Oh my God, you still remember that? Jake, I was on the phone with my agent. I was running lines for an audition for a daytime soap opera. You were so sleep-deprived from carrying cement that you hallucinated a whole past life narrative. Jake froze. His eyes blinked rapidly. What? You didn't travel back in time, idiot. You passed out on the kitchen floor for 14 hours, woke up, and decided you were the main character of a web novel. I just played along because you finally stopped trying to spoon-feed me. A slow flush crept up his neck. The ruthless billionaire facade cracked, revealing the embarrassed, tired boy underneath. He covered his face with his hands and let out a long, tortured groan. Oh my God. I told Mark I was reborn. He still makes fun of me. As he should. I snickered. Jake dropped his hands and glared at me, but there was no real heat in it. Just a raw, aching vulnerability. You didn't care about me at all, he said softly. It was just the money. I stopped laughing. I looked at him. The man who had ruined his hands to buy me. Silk, who had cooked food he knew I'd hate just to see my reaction, who had tracked me across an ocean. If I only cared about the money, I admitted quietly, I wouldn't have gained 20 pounds eating your terrible cooking, and I wouldn't have let you break up with me. Jake stepped into my space. The air hitched in my throat. I didn't break up with you, he whispered, his face inches from mine. I told you I was going back to my path. I just forgot to mention that my path was coming back to get you. I took 55 million from your mother, I reminded him, my heart hammering against my ribs. I am a walking red flag. I know, he said, his hands coming to rest on my waist. But I'm the CEO now. I can't afford you. I'm high maintenance. I hired a staff of 50. I'm a drama queen. I bought a movie studio so you can act it out. I looked up into his eyes. You're insane. I'm reborn, he whispered, a smirk playing on his lips. This time I'm never serving you like a dog again. From now on we're equals. But he leaned down, his lips brushing against mine. I did make sweet and sour pork for dinner. Extra spicy. I closed my eyes, a genuine smile finally breaking through my mean girl exterior. Fine. I breathed, wrapping my arms around his neck. But if it's too sweet, I'm firing you. He kissed me, and for the first time in 2 lives, reality was entirely enough.